That Don't Sound Right is a podcast about talking the way we did before the internet, when you could not prove anyone right or wrong.
All the expertise was contained in the people involved with the conversation. I'm Peter.
I'm Cecil, and I hope you enjoy our conversations. And as you listen, if you find yourself silently saying, that don't sound right, send us a comment. You're one of us. That was the second time I got in trouble for vegetation in Winston-Salem.
So what's the first vegetation?
I used to have some bushes around the stop sign in the corner of my yard.
What kind of bushes? Hey everybody, this is Peter at the TDSR recording studio and carport in the Camel City. I'm loving technology. How about you, Cecil?
I love technology also. Be able to.
It only took me 3 times to kick this particular podcast off. Everything from I didn't know what to say, and this was actually a recruiting studio.
Right. Well, it's funny. 50 episodes or 47 episodes ago, we wouldn't have cared. But now,
now we got a standard to uphold for those 60 listeners.
Yeah, we're much more particular now than we were 47 episodes ago.
I mean, we're sitting here doing sound checks, and we're making sure our balance is right.
Yeah.
We're making sure that you can't hear the thunder through the window.
We've come a long way in our podcasting.
We have. We got some exciting things coming up here because we're heading towards our 52nd episode.
Right, 1 year.
We've been doing this for a year. Actually, we've done one every year. Every week for a year.
Yes, and said it couldn't be done. They said it wouldn't last.
That's right. I have not been, and you've been on every single one of them. You've done every single one of them.
That's true, I have.
And you have been our chief technical advisor by mixing it and posting them up. You've been faithful in doing that every week.
That's right. Well, it's been a year.
So I thank you. The TDSR community thanks you.
Yeah, it's been fun.
So we've got some new things I think we're going to bring in here week 52.
We're hoping to. And we've it's funny, I find people that are just discovering the podcast now, which is a lot of fun because I feel like when we get a listener, we keep a listener.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
That is nice.
You probably heard, I've already reached the pinnacle of my podcasting when someone asked me at church, they said, "Hey, I heard you had a podcast."
That's right.
Yeah, very exciting.
I like it when someone says, "How did I not know you had a podcast?"
Which
I can think of a lot of reasons why.
Right. But I'm always like, it's on like several social media platforms.
Right.
But people do say that, I didn't know you had a podcast.
So here we are. Let's see. We're about in the second week of August that's gone by.
Yes.
And what I've noticed here in this area in the Piedmont Triad, that when you start heading into September, end of August, September, it's like a light switch is flipped on the temperature.
Yes.
It starts to get cool.
Yes.
The humidity draws down.
Yes.
The leaves start to change.
Yes.
And the leaves start to fall.
And so we live in Camel City, which is a beautiful city. But your neighborhood and my neighborhood, which used to be the same neighborhood before the parkway was cut.
Right.
We have a lot of very mature trees.
And by mature, we mean humongous.
Humongous trees.
And
pin oaks, white oaks,
poplars, hickories, and these all, except for those pin oaks and those willow oaks, the leaves are pretty big. Pretty big leaves.
And so what the pin oaks and the willow oaks make up in size, they make up in volume.
Yes, there's a ton of those. But they are super, super nice shade trees.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, if I didn't want the shade, I'd go live in a newer community that had no trees.
Yes.
And just dealt with the sun, but I really do enjoy the shade.
I do too. I'm not complaining about the trees at all, but it does create a particular issue in the fall, of which I'm happy to have, but it has caused me some run-ins with the law.
That's so what happens here in the Camel City is that the city allows us to pile leaves up at the edge of our property on the roads, and they come with this huge vacuum machine and they suck them up.
Right.
And inevitably, though, the volume of the leaves sometimes surpass the area available on the road.
Yes. And so we have wide We have wide, beautiful avenues through our neighborhood.
We do have pretty good roads.
Yes.
Do you, I don't think you don't have any sidewalks either, do you?
We have sidewalks.
You have sidewalks.
Yeah, we have sidewalks. And so there's plenty of road, but when the leaves fall and people start to rake them out to the edge of their property, they don't want to kill their grass, so inevitably they rake them off the edge of their property and into the gutter, and we go down to one-lane roads in the neighborhood.
That's right.
Essentially, because of the leaves on each side.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've seen these piles. I haven't seen these. I know on my street, there's a couple neighbors that will pile those leaves. I mean, and they will take up 3/4 of a lane.
Yes.
Worth of leaves. And
Yes.
I'm thinking, what in the world?
Yes. And so...
And let me guess, you're one of those guys.
No. Well, it is... Here's what happened. So the neighborhood pool abuts my property.
Okay.
And the clubhouse had been broken into. And so there was a neighborhood, everybody was kind of looking out for the pool to make sure nobody did any more damage. And this goes into the fall one year. And so I'm outside, and I have about 15 minutes as it's getting dark, right before probably an elders meeting. And I run outside with the blower, and I'm blowing a few leaves out to the edge of the property, okay? Or out into the road.
Hey, that's right.
Out into the road. But I notice as it's getting dark, there's some cars down at the pool.
Okay.
So as I'm blowing, an officer of the law comes by, and I flag him down.
All right.
And I said, "Officer, there are some cars down at the pool, and we've had some problems down there, and y'all have been to our neighborhood and asked us to report any suspicious activity."
Right.
He looked at me and said, "You are in violation of the Winston-Salem noise ordinance."
Oh.
And
He's saying
to me,
he's saying to you,
"You're right.
that don't sound right.
That don't sound right.
You're making some racket."
Yes. So I have flagged him down to report what they've asked to be reported. And he says, "I'm in violation of the noise ordinance." I said, "Officer, I'm very sorry. I'll happily put this blower up."
Yeah. What time was it?
It was like probably...
It must be 8:30.
Yeah,
Close to 8.
it might not have been an elders meeting because it was probably, it was just getting dark.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we're in the fall, so it's
fall.
probably getting dark around maybe closer to 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I said, "Okay, officer, no problem. I'm happy to put the mower up, or put the blower up." He then looks at me, and I said, "If you'll go, check on the cars down at the pool." He then looks at me and says, "You're also in violation of the Winston-Salem leaf ordinance."
Ooh, that don't sound right.
And I said, what do you mean? He said, "Well, you have raked your leaves out into the street."
That's right.
And so now we're standing in a pile of leaves. He's in a pile of leaves. The whole neighborhood is down to one lane because everybody's leaves are in the street.
And you flagged him down.
And I flagged him down. And so I said...
He's caught you red-handed.
And I look around and I said, "Officer, everybody's leaves are in the street. This is our neighborhood in the fall." He said, "Well, I had gone down the street to talk to one of your neighbors who had raked a 5-foot pile of leaves into the street."
I've seen it.
Yeah. "And he wasn't home, so I'm going to get you."
Oh.
He said, "If you need to, I'll show you the ordinance in the book." I said, No, I'm not arguing with you at all. I said, "If you'll go check on the pool, by the time you get back, I will have all my leaves out of the road."
All right.
And so I now spent the next hour moving all of my leaves out of the road back onto the edge of my yard
But how'd you do that without making noise?
with a rake.
No.
Yes. So by the time he comes back, all of my leaves are back in my neighborhood. Nothing's going on at the pool. But now as you look through the neighborhood, I am the only person that has their leaves at the edge of the yard.
Well, because you were faced with a fine.
And everybody else, of course, is in the everybody else is in the thing. So that was my...
Now, what would have happened if you raked them across the road into your neighbor's
And so now he was just doing his job.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't a rant against what he was doing. It was a little odd since I had flagged him down.
Right.
And I think he was a little frustrated that he had not been able to get the guy.
Yeah, he really wanted to get the 5-footer.
Right, he wanted to get the 5-footer guy because they had some complaints
What's
about
the
5-footer.
fine, do you know?
I don't know. I got mine out of the street post haste and avoided any fine.
Man.
Yeah. So so that was so I got all the leaves back out of the street. Of course, then in the spring, I had a 4-foot dead strip across the front of my yard.
Yes.
Where
Everyone else's looked grass
everybody
looks
else's looked great. and mine was dead for about 4 feet in because I had obeyed the law that year.
Oh, man.
I do think I said, are you going to apply this law equally?
Oh, nice. Nice.
I was probably
I'm sure
bored.
he was real amused by that.
Yeah, because I was saying, as you can see, there are many people in violation of this ordinance.
So I wonder why he gave up on that guy.
I don't know. That's a good question. So anyways.
I also wonder, how could he, in good conscience, drive down a one-lane road full of leaves to go single out one person?
Right. Again, that's my point was if we're going to apply this law, we should apply it equally throughout the neighborhood.
So do you know what the ordinance is?
I never went back and looked.
So the ordinance is you are not supposed to put them in the street.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do know that.
The ordinance is you're not supposed to put them.
He was completely right in what he was saying. I was in violation of both the no noise ordinance and the leaf ordinance.
Yeah, I was surprised how
I was
stringent
breaking
that one
all
is.
kinds of laws that night. Yeah. So that was the second time I got in trouble for vegetation in Winston-Salem.
So what's the first vegetation?
I used to have some bushes around the stop sign in the corner of my yard.
What kind of bushes?
I don't remember what they were.
Do they flower?
No. But people thought they would block the view as they were looking down, and so I'd get these notes from my anonymous neighbors, which I hope are listening to the podcast.
They're probably not.
And it would say, please cut your bushes back. And so eventually I got a note from the Winston-Salem Vegetation Patrol or something like that and said that if I didn't cut them back to a uniform 54 inches that they would cut them and charge me.
Ooh.
So obviously I called them. I said, please tell me who called you. And they said, we don't do that, sir.
So you know what you can find out because if they got an email, they have to release
public disclosure.
Yes, they have to release
man.
it. But you have to file something else separately.
I wish I'd have known that. So anyways, out of spite, I cut them down completely.
And you piled leaves on the corner.
Leaves on the corner. Yeah, one of the odd things the officer told me that night was he said, you do know that this is a fire hazard because cars that park on leaves can catch the leaves on fire.
Well, I can fix that. I can spray paint a no parking on the big pile of leaves. So what I do at my house.
What's that?
So I kind of do a blend of that. I put them halfway. Like if I have a big pile, half of it will be on my yard, and the other half will be in the street.
Yeah.
But I always leave a spot to park.
Yes.
So what I do is I park one of my cars on the street and I pile the leaves all around it.
Right.
Then I can back out and get from around it.
Right.
But he is right, about the parking hazard.
I know. I think I know what you're getting ready to tell me. Because until what you're getting ready to say happened, I thought it was like lightning in the shower.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? No. Here we go getting into the car series. We'll venture off in the car series, but in the 80s when all that emissions equipment came out and they started putting catalytic converters on cars, that was something that was happening that people weren't used to. Is that the dry grass underneath the cars where they would park would catch fire and then usually catch the whole car on fire and bad things would happen.
Yeah. So we know somebody mutually who. A car burn up.
Hey, I heard. Is that? I heard. Is that true? Did that really happen?
As far as I know, that happened.
Okay,
They parked on a pile of leaves, and the leaves caught fire. I don't know if it burnt the car up, but the leaves caught fire.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So don't park on leaves with a catalytic converter.
Yeah. Another little fire story that my kids like to hold against me is they were doing it was one of their science segments. And they were talking about chemical reactions versus chemical changes versus physical changes in the chemistry world. And so the easy example is melting wax is a physical change, right? It just changes shape and it's still there. Whereas physical change is more like something burning. And so
A chemical change.
A chemical change. Right. It's like something literally burning and turning to ash. So I got the bright idea saying, "Hey kids, here's an example." And so I just had a paper towel. Okay, I had a paper towel in my hand in the kitchen, and I lit it on fire. And the kids were going nuts. They were little, and like, "Dad, just lit a fire in the kitchen." And I'm like, don't worry about it. So I stuck it in the trash can to kind of smash it. Well, now the trash catches fire. I was like, okay, this is bad.
Right.
So I take the trash out and I set it down. And as it set down, it kind of flopped over. And so whatever was burning came out of the trash can and then onto the ground.
Right.
So this is in the fall.
Right.
And I have this type of grass in my backyard called zoysia grass.
Yes.
And it's very similar to Bermuda in the wintertime in that it basically dies off and turns into hay.
Right.
So I have a whole backyard full of hay. And
dry hay.
And up towards the top are big piles of leaves from the beautiful oaks and poplars that have dropped their leaves.
Yeah.
To make matters worse, it's a windy day. It's probably one of those days where they say, don't burn it.
Right.
So what has happened is that what starts as a little fire on my grass starts to spread and move till it's about the size of my kitchen. I mean, it's going up the hill. Right now, it's only in the grass, but it's getting ready to hit the leaves. And the wind is blowing it right towards the leaves.
Oh my gosh.
So my neighbor comes over and goes, is everything all right? And I said, I don't think so. You better get the hose going. Because I'm hearing the kids are getting me like cups of water. And I'm like dousing water. I'm thinking, certainly this will die down. But no, I mean, the air was dry, the wind was blowing, and this fire was on the move.
Oh, man.
I mean, it sends shivers up my spine.
That's a scary story
to
just
think
listening
what
to
could
it.
happen.
Yeah.
So we get the hose out, we get the fire.
Right.
We get the fire put out, and I've got this black charred area on my yard.
Oh, that's terrible.
And then a couple months later, my neighbor moves, and I'm wondering, did he move because I'm an idiot? That could have been it. He might have been fed up with his idiot neighbor and said, "I am out of here."
Right. There's a fire hazard living next to me. Well, I almost burnt up one of my friends in a tent one night. Doing the same kind of thing.
All right.
Fire is dangerous.
Do we need to do a public safety announcement?
Maybe we should do it. Well, let me do the. I'll do the words of wisdom,
What's
and they'll
that?
come out. So
What's the words of wisdom?
the words of wisdom are going to be: "Make hay while the sun is shining," which is an old saying about when the workday is. When you have time to work.
Right.
So it's like the ant and the grasshopper. During the summer you store up for the winter. So when the sun is shining, you make hay.
That's a good word.
Good word.
That's a good word.
Hay
I'm sure there's some other things we need to talk about. Fire, though.
We need some fire safety.
Don't play with fire while you're making hay during the day.
That's right. So we were on Springer, and so for y'all that are not familiar with the Appalachian Trail, the southern terminus of the Appalachian Trail is Mount Springer.
Mm-hmm. In Georgia.
In Georgia.
Right.
So we're at the southern terminus. We're on top of Springer. We're on top of Springer. So we've set up our tents for night, and it is just howling wind.
All right.
And so everybody's kind of turned in for the night, and the guy that was in my tent's turned in for the night. And I'm out with the fire. We had a small fire that night. We hadn't had a small fire that night because it was kind of wind, a little damp. So we'd used our stoves, we'd cooked, but I was determined to build a fire.
You and your fires.
To see if I could do it in this windstorm. And I did. I built it. And as it caught, it really caught.
Right.
And so now I'm up here on the mountain, and it is really beginning to whip up into a bigger fire. And now it's just throwing sparks against the tent. And hot coals. And so,
partially burned sticks.
Right. And
against a nice nylon
tent that I've sprayed with water repellent. So it's just this big, huge, flammable pile. And so it's throwing stuff against the tent, and I'm trying to get it back under control because it's like you said. It's like I felt like I was just seconds from it being out of control.
You were seconds from being on CNN.
Oh yeah. The Mount Springer fire that they traced back to a campfire out of control.
That's right.
So, but I got it under control. He was okay. But thinking back on it, I was like, that just would have been horrible if I had that tent caught and gone up.
Yeah.
It's just.
That'd have been a sad night.
Yeah.
And here's the thing right now, I'm thinking, Cecil, I can't figure out how we got to this part of the podcast.
I know, we really took a turn. This could have been its own episode in itself.
Where are we?
We started with leaves.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Catalytic converters.
This follows fall, fire, you know.
Yeah. Be safe with fire.
Yes.
Don't play
mess
around with fire.
especially in the wind and dry conditions. When they say don't burn because it's windy and dry,
Don't burn.
Don't burn.
Smokey says
there's
don't
some there's some words of wisdom for
absolutely.
you.
Well, you've took a circuitous route, but you've come to the end of another. That don't sound right.
You might be a little dizzy because it felt like a circle, but here we are.
Here we are, back at the front.
Hey, we thank everyone again for listening. Thank you for the community that you guys are creating, talking about things, sharing your experiences. Keep sending us emails at tdsrpodcast@gmail.com. Send us your pics for our Instagram account.
Buy a t-shirt.
If you want to buy a t-shirt or a mug or a pint glass, those are all available out there. Funny story. We were in the airport parking lot. We were walking back, and it was at night. And there's this long line of cars. Long line of cars. And, they all look the same at night after you've been traveling for 22 hours.
Yeah.
But halfway down, gleaming like a star, was the That Don't Sound Right sticker on the side of our van that pierced the darkness, and we knew we had found our home.
You were home. Yeah, see, that's another reason to listen and buy. You can locate your car with the sticker.
Get yourself one.
Get yourself one.
But until then,
Keep talking.
and stay curious.